Welcome to Quit Bleeping Around, a podcast dedicated to helping you achieve more in life. Here's your host, Christina Eanes.
Hey, superachievers, Christina Eanes here. I have a special episode for you today, episode 399 of the Quit Bleeping Around podcast, not episode. So today I have my hubby, Jeff, on, and we are going to preview a new podcast that we're launching next month, Life is an Escape Room podcast. It's based off of our Life is an Escape Room book and blog, which is at lifeisanescaperoom.com. And we just kind of want to share our journey, and we'll use this to launch the new podcast because Quit Bleeping Around is ending after episode 400. More on that next episode next week. All right. Welcome, Jeff.
Welcome. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Of course. Well, now we started on this escape room journey. Gosh, what, 2016?
Yeah, it's been quite a while.
It's been a while
now,
now, right? So 7 years, and we're this close to 800 escape rooms.
Yes.
In like what, 20 different countries, 20 something different states.
Oh, and so many different locations. We're way over 270 locations we've been to. Yeah.
Well, and one thing that we found as we were doing these escape rooms was that you can learn a lot about yourself. I mean, I know typically they're used in team building, right? In the corporate type thing. But we found there's a lot we could learn about ourselves, in particular perspective, how we view things, how our perception creates our reality, which is fascinating. We'll dive into that here in a minute. It helps us work on our emotional intelligence, right? Awareness of our emotions, how we manage them, and which is more in the traditional sense, it helps us work on our communication with others.
Oh, and it definitely helps when you think about how you're reacting to just any sort of challenge. It's the same just in general when you're out at work or at home with the family. The idea of how am I approaching a problem? How am I thinking about it? And it's and what happens when my stress increases?
Yeah.
When you come home from work and you're not thinking about it, but you're still stressed from work, it's the idea of do I realize that I think differently, I behave differently, I approach things differently while I'm in that state.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's steps to know yourself and then know how to interact with people, but it's just amazing to really see how you behave in that environment, and it's very focused in an escape room for sure.
Oh, absolutely, right? And then by doing them with intention, we can work on ourselves and improve ourselves. I don't know about you, but I know about you, but I have noticed a lot of growth in myself in how I interact with others since we started doing escape rooms with intention.
Oh, and from the examples that I've seen in myself of poor behavior, it's amazing how I change how I behave with the people I work at work,
Mm-hmm.
at home too. I mean, just realizing that you have to be deliberate with patience. You have to be deliberate with support to others. You have to give yourself time and you have to give them time. I mean, the overlapping of your own emotions and realizing others are going through the same thing is just such a valuable lesson.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things, and we'll do a deep dive on the Life is an Escape Room podcast on each of these areas.
Yes.
But let's start with, since let's keep it big today. The three
Sure.
main areas that we learn, right? Perception, emotional intelligence, and communication. So one thing, I love to tell the story when we're talking about perception and how we create our own realities. I love to tell the story about when we were in the escape room with the roaming zombie.
Oh,
About how we both went in with different expectations. Yeah.
Yes, and that was one of my learning experience for sure. It's I just could not focus on the parameters that I was aware of.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew in my mind that the zombie could not hurt us, touch us, but the perception of having to be aware of that problem when there was nothing I could do about it, and it wasn't really an obstruction.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who haven't heard the story, we were in an escape room, and the way it worked was there would be a zombie, a live actor, and the actor could come and tag you or touch you and sort of put you out of the game. And we were told very clearly that the zombie would not be able to do that, that the zombie would just be present about midway through the game. But the zombie would not be able to take you out of the game until you had the tool. I think it was a Nerf gun.
Yes.
Until you had the tool to defend yourself. Well, as soon as I saw the zombie, well, actually, even before I saw the zombie, because they were rattling the doors behind us, I was locking the doors behind us as we went.
You were getting in trouble with the game master.
Oh, she made me go back and unlock a lock because I was like, well, hold on. Shouldn't I lock us in here so the zombie can't sneak up on me? But it was, but my behavior, I mean, just the way I got sort of at the, excited and unable to like think outside of this very narrow paradigm. I mean, the example I like you use all the time, Chris, is the pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to the top of the pyramid, and your ability to think rationally goes away, and that was definitely the case.
Yes, the rational defensive continuum. For those of you that are interested in learning, just Google it; it should pop up. Yeah, so we both had these completely different experiences, right? So I went excited because this was a new thing. And I think we were like around 300 or so escape rooms at this point.
Yeah,
so it was still a novelty. And it was unlike we had heard other escape rooms where like a zombie would be chained and then they get more access to you as time goes on.
Right.
This one was free roaming. I was so excited about that. We start split up in the dark. Of course, I was excited about that. And then, of course, at the beginning, I decided, one, I'm excited. This is a new experience. And two, I'm going to enjoy it. Since that zombie can't come after me, I'm going to mess with them. Of course, that's kind of my personality too, right?
Well, look.
Yeah. So when he came and banged on the door at that first part, I pretended I was in the bathroom. I'll be out in a minute. And it was funny though. So we both walked into this experience with totally different, same experience, totally different perceptions. And by the time we were done, I know you were exhausted.
Oh,
you're like, we have 4 more escape rooms to do today.
The emotional and physical toll is amazing.
Yeah, I was excited to go. Now, I would like to flip that though, because we'll dive deeper into that in the Life is an Escape Room podcast. There's plug number 3, folks. So horror escape rooms, and we experience this a lot, right? So we both of us, which I'm thankful for, you have that perception of this is going to be cool. This is going to be fun. Let's see what they can come up with. We've actually been waiting outside. Folks, listen to this. We've actually been waiting outside of an escape room. There was a couple that went in before us. It was deemed a scary escape room, an asylum. And 10 minutes in, the couple came out. The woman was actually, we heard her scream a few times. Right? And the couple came out. We're like, what's going on? And then we went in and we had so much fun. Oh. All about perception. What are your thoughts on that, Jeff?
Oh, when it's amazing to give yourself the opportunity and not only give yourself the opportunity, but pay for the opportunity to go and have a new experience and then just allow your concerns about it to just completely stop the experience.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing to me. At the very least, if you're going in with the idea that it'll be a scary experience, then push through, get the benefit of that experience. But yeah, very, very strange when especially in that case, when people know it's going to be like a certain type of experience, and then when they really are faced with it, they they change their mind midstream. And
Yeah.
For me, and maybe it's part of our background. I mean, we've both come, you with the crime analysis, me with emergency medicine was way back in the day. So both of us, I think our
Are you saying we're old? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I'm saying we've had, I think our approach to adversity and emergencies are a little different because we've been in places where you weren't allowed to react to those
true
sort of
emergencies. Yeah.
True emergencies. It's like, and it's funny when people, they face emergencies at work, and it's not life or death. It's you're not physically in any risk, or it's a simulated risk, and those are the best places to push through and try, because there really is no real risk. And getting back to the idea of escape rooms, I mean, that's like the perfect example, because they're very conscious of your safety. They're very conscious of
in most countries.
In most countries, yes. But I mean, hypothetically, that gets back to your teamwork too. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're in a scary room by yourself, that'd be one thing. But you're in a you. But I mean, if you're going in with a team, it gets back to that learning experience. It's like, what are you doing to help the others? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's not about your own fear; it's about helping somebody else's fear. Yeah. So when
we have to be empathetic. What?
My gosh, that's so weird. It's and it translates back to what we do every day. It's like when people stress, maybe it isn't fear, maybe it's stress. Maybe it isn't fear, maybe it's, a feeling of being overwhelmed, or, underestimating themselves as a confidence thing. I mean, those are the same sorts of things that we can address and practice on and help ourselves overcome. And it's just such a fascinating thing that everyone can work on, but it's escape rooms themselves are such a fascinating tool to use to address that.
Absolutely. And I have to share bathtub filling up with blood. There's a creepy little kid's voice, "I'm gonna get you," on the PA, right? And I'm like, "Oh my God, Jeff, you have to come see this." And what do?
Here it comes. Oh, the game master was so she enjoyed us so much. She's like, can I adopt you as my parents? It was but I mean, for us too, the experience is just so amazing. Yeah. I mean, and people are so creative. The bathtub in particular. I mean, it was, I presume it wasn't real blood, but it definitely
wasn't
had
thick
that,
enough, but it was cool.
It wasn't thick enough, but it was. But the idea of the red liquid in the bathtub and us having to figure out how to either drain it out or brave it and stick your hand in. It's. And speaking of those,
and we're like, oh, please. Not it.
Yeah, I always seem to not.
I'm faster than you.
Not fast enough. Yeah. But speaking of that too, it's. I mean, just being in the flow and being in the zone. We were in some escape rooms. It was with Josh and Alyssa.
For those of you that don't know, that his brother and our daughter.
Yes. Well, they were in a section of a very large escape room, and they were very focused on a puzzle. And I had come in to just check and see if I could help. And I looked up and noticed that the ceiling was closing in.
I was in there with them, right?
She was in there. Josh was in there. The ceiling was closing down on them. They were slowly losing space. Didn't notice a thing. They were so in the zone, and it didn't affect the artificiality of that constraint of the time limit of things like that. It wasn't a concern, and maybe it's because I didn't notice, but it really does speak a lot to the fact that whether they noticed or not, sometimes if you can't affect it, not thinking about it is the best way to move forward.
Yeah.
That was a fun.
So
fun
many
thing
lessons.
To say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which brings us then to also emotional intelligence. Right. How we are aware of our emotions, like especially when we're getting snippy with others, right? Aware of
Hmm.
maybe our anxiety when we look up and see that timer. We've
Uh,
only got 5 minutes left. How are we going to behave
right.
this last 5 minutes? And then managing them. One of my favorite stories to tell during my speeches on this one is we won't say where we were, but all of a sudden the room started filling up with water and a piercing alarm went off. I'm fine with most things, but I'm noise sensitive, and that alarm set me off. So I actually had to
Hmm.
leave the room and start pacing between a couple of other rooms to get that energy out because it was hurting my ears so much. And you were just like, working on the puzzle.
Well, and it is fascinating, and both with emotional intelligence, but also, I mean, the whole idea of teamwork.
Hmm.
It's knowing when we need to step back and allow someone else to take over a task is important.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of emotional intelligence and both anger control, fear control,
Mm.
frustration control. Uh, Maybe even emotional intelligence and the idea of savoring happiness. I
Yes.
mean, it's amazing how many times we go into a room and it's like, yeah, we could dive into the puzzles, but the work that went into this, the setup, the decor is just worth taking a moment and
Just
quote unquote
enjoy.
losing a moment to
Yeah.
enjoy. It's very telling about being able to not just notice your negative emotions, but notice and sort of harness and appreciate your positive emotions
Oh,
too.
absolutely.
It's definitely a great thing.
That's a great point, and I struggle with that when we go in and do like 6, 7 rooms a day, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like I want to savor each one, but then I'm ready for the next one.
Oh yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like,
It's well, and oh, and as you get tired, you realize it's harder to savor the good ones.
yeah,
I mean, sometimes you want the really great things first,
yeah,
but you have to. I mean, because you have the opportunity to get these other experiences. You gotta drive through. You got to have fun on all of them, even
yes.
when you're tired. I mean, so yeah,
Push through. We can
definitely a
have
fun
fun.
thing.
Damn it.
Oh, and it's and I also find, and I've always felt this just in general, that I felt this before I was a leader, but it's definitely true now. It's that you control the weather,
Yes.
and there are times when when you're with other people, or when you're with new players, or with people that are worried. It's the way you behave
Absolutely.
contributes to their emotions. So it's really not just knowing yourself and knowing others' emotional intelligence, but having the tools to affect it. How do you calm yourself down? How do you support others and either have them enjoy something or have them break out of a negative emotion?
Yeah.
It's so fun to do that when you're in that environment. Yeah.
So we have time for one more item, we'll call it. Now I know there's so many. So at the date of this recording, we are at like we're just like
793.
yes.
793. That's
So
where we're at.
793 experiences. What and again, we're going to have an entire podcast to share these and listen to others as well. What experience comes to mind for you that was a big lesson, and how did it impact you either at home and or at work?
Oh my gosh, there's so
I
many.
know. So what's the first one that comes to mind?
The first one that came to mind was the first room that we did in Orlando with our daughter.
Ah,
The first game we did.
yeah. Raiding a
It
tomb.
was raiding a tomb, Egyptian tomb. We weren't sure what we were doing going
No
in.
idea.
It was the middle of the week, so it was very slow, and the game master was so engaged. It was the big voice type
Hmm.
of room where she could talk to us live, and oh my gosh, she was having fun. She was helping us without giving it away. Her
Little nudges.
support,
Yep.
little nudges, rooting for us. It really, I mean, that first impression of escape rooms is what got us hooked.
Absolutely.
And here we are, almost 800 games later, and on this huge journey. I mean, the idea of having the opportunity to start such a great thing in your life, have this in our lives, have escape rooms in our lives, and being able to talk about them and reflect on them and use them as a tool and have the fun of them and
Travel the world.
I think that really was like, just the first one was the one that was really one of the greatest. And since then there's been
absolutely
mind-bogglingly great rooms and interacting with people. But I think that would be mine.
Yeah.
What's yours? What comes to mind for you?
Oh, no, I want to get back. I want to get to your lesson.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, the lesson.
Yeah.
The lesson I take from that is that the way we react and the way people contribute to a situation is what gives it value. And in this case, the knowing that the game master had a choice, and her choice was to support us and get the best out of us, is the lesson that I've learned from me. Because for me, it means that we have a choice too. Every day. We have a choice to make our workplace better. We have a choice to support our family. We have a choice to support our life choices. We have a choice to, and those choices help improve the value. These are the things that we do that we can control. And there's so many things in our lives that we can't control. But the lesson I learned, and it's really reinforced very solidly over the years, is that the choices that we make add value to our lives, add value to the lives of others, and that was really a great lesson to learn from that. So that would be my lesson.
And it makes the journey so much better.
Oh my gosh.
So it's, again, a lot of stories, and we're going to have an entire podcast to tell them. But the first one that comes to mind when you asked me that question was a recent one, being really locked in a coffin, like the lid would not move, while I was bargaining with the demon in the catacombs under a church. So I was thinking about, for those folks that would like the story, there was, we had to, I can't even remember now what the mission was, but we were under an old church in actual catacombs. It was done beautifully, and we were going through multiple rooms. And at one point, the demon needed a sacrifice, and it was someone getting in the coffin, and then that coffin was pulled into a different room. So of course,
and somebody always volunteers first. Yep.
Of course, I volunteered. Yeah. So I got in the coffin. I was pulled in a different room, and the idea was, it sounded like a bunch of rats were crawling over the coffin, and scratches, and there was a demon outside the coffin. And I even tested the lid. It was locked, but there was an actor there, so he could, I'm sure, unlock it very quickly if there was an emergency. But and the demon was trying to get me to give up your name. And so I was like, no, I'm not going to give up his name. And he said, okay, what's his name? I'm like, okay, Mandy. He's like, that's not his name. Okay, Andrew. That's not his name, right? But then it started getting warm in there. And I was like, okay, I need some air conditioner, dude. And I actually said that. I was about to give up your name, but he did send me back, and I was released. But I think that the translation into that was, one, I know a lot of people talk about being fearless, and I actually don't like that term, because fear is good. It keeps us safe, and I would rather be courageous, right? Everyone has fears, like public speaking. That can be fearful, but it's not letting those stop you. So I do actually get afraid sometimes in situations like that, but I just keep going, and turn it into something fun. So it was kind of a resilience thing. It was I'm connected to my teammate thing, because I'm not going to give him up.
I appreciate it.
So I think it really translates in life, as long as we're not too hot, because that causes issues. We're able to address stuff, overcome our fears, be courageous, be resilient, get that problem solving and face that challenge.
I like that. Courageous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
lot
lesson.
more lessons to come.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
folks, if you enjoyed our conversation, there's going to be a lot more on the Life is an Escape Room podcast. It's debuting April 2023 if you're listening to this before then. If not, just do a quick search and find us. We are going to share our own stories and learning. We'll deep dive into each episode. On top of that, we will also be speaking to other folks in the industry, enthusiasts, game owners, the game location owners, game masters. Man, they see a lot. They see many people come through every day and how they interact with each other. And one, we'll be sharing fun stories, and two, what we learned from them. So hopefully you'll learn from them. Any final words you want to share, Jeff?
Oh, no. Just thank you for having me on this podcast, and thank you for being my teammate in escape rooms and teammate in life. Aww. It makes the world better.
Awesome.
So yeah, thank you.
Aww. Well, thanks for joining us, folks. We'll hope to see you in the next episode.
Interested in expanding your employee development program? Visit ChristinaEanes.com to look at the many workshops Christina has available for you.